9/11 p.m. 5/19/2013 plus 10 years 2023. This dude put this up 8 years ago. The Ten Commandments.
No document in world history so changed the world for the better as did the Ten Commandments. Western civilization. Find Prager University, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for free at prageru.com. What is the first of the Ten Commandments? Might seem like an odd question, but it's not. Jews and Christians give different answers. The reason is that what we know as the Ten Commandments is, in the original Hebrew, the 10 statements. And since the Hebrew is the original, we begin with the first statement, which all religions agree is, I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. This statement is so important that none of the other commandments make sense without it. First, it asserts that God is giving these commandments.
Why?
Not Moses.
Don't ask questions. Not Moses. This is Mike the Fool with the guitar, right? The Ten Commandments? Let me tell you the list. If I take the list when I get up there, and if I don't see my name on the list, but I will be first on the list, and then I'll open the gate, walk through the gate, and then come back in and decide who gets in. Who you taking first? All my friends, depending on if I don't like them or not, at the end. Two things. This is whistleblowers detail political riot at the FBI. That's Fox News. It says whistleblowers detail political riot at the FBI. Whistleblowers detail political riot at FBI. This is Fox News, 2 minutes after 9/11 p.m. on a Friday night, 11 days before Memorial. It says whistleblowers detail political riot at the FBI. That's Mr. Steve. What's his last name?
For their gods. For example, feed them. And even sacrifice people to them. But now, thanks to the Ten Commandments, mankind learned that what God wants is that we be good to our fellow humans.
You think he's talking to GC
even
or
the
Big?
commandments concerning not having false gods.
False gods? Ego, viral videos, FBI agents. Who's special agent in charge? This is Prager University, right? 8 years ago? Even though it's only 2 of it left. Even though I'm mentioning his name, I'll just call him Prager U, like Prager University.
Have indescribable joy when they see
How long has he been on the internet? Did he make any more videos? He's got a cohort.
Indescribable pain when they see their children hurt one another. So to God, who is likened to our Father in heaven, cares most about how we treat other human beings, all of whom are his children.
Wow.
The third critical teaching of the first
Take an oath of
statement,
office.
I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt.
They don't like the government spending, no kidding.
Is the importance and the meaning.
How do you live in the United States if you...
Note that God is not saying in this introduction to the Ten
You look at the back of every single dollar bill and say, in God we trust. It says, in God we trust. Not in another language, it doesn't.
God created the world. That is, after all, pretty impressive and would make sense. I created the world, you better listen to me. But no. One thing God declares is that he took the children of Israel out of slavery and into freedom. That's how much God hates slavery and how important God considers freedom. The founders of America based their entire view of America on this belief that God wants us to be free.
Who's George Washington?
That is why the most iconic symbol of the American Revolution,
right?
the Liberty Bell, has only one sentence inscribed on it.
What is it?
A verse from the Hebrew Bible.
What?
Proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. But there is one other equally important lesson about freedom imparted by the opening statement of the Ten Commandments.
The opening statement. It's the Boston Celtics at home against the Miami Heat. What do you think the score is at the first quarter? That's basketball, right? No, that's Fox News says there's a blonde on TV with big blue eyes. Freedom comes from
There
What?
was no other way to achieve it. And fourth
Let's
and
call the
finally,
game
by
during
telling us
the
that he
Ten
liberated the
Commandments.
Hebrew slaves,
It's
God
on
made
245,
clear
which is
that he cared
TNT, which is Charles
about
Barkley,
human beings. It is impressive to create the world.
Shaquille O'Neal,
What most matters
Eddie
is not only
Johnson,
that there is a
the dude
creator,
named, could never figure out,
that the creator cares
Smith.
about his
And of
creation.
course they have Tatum, Harford,
All of that
Smart,
is in the
of course
one statement
Adebayo,
in
Butler.
which the Ten Commandments.
Who's got the most points after the first quarter?
I'm
Tell me.
Dennis Prager. Join Prager University.
42,
Subscribe to our
42.
YouTube channel and sign up for free at PragerU.com.
42, last
Let's
quarter.
discuss the second commandment according to the oldest, that is the Jewish enumeration of the Ten Commandments. In Christian tradition, it's the first commandment. The most common translation begins, "You shall have no other gods before me." The commandment then
What's
goes
a
on to
euro
prohibit
dollar?
both making idols
What's
and
a
worshiping
Brexit?
idols. Most people,
What's a
when they
Trident
think of this
submarine?
commandment, understandably think
I
that
just
it
saw
only
the
prohibits the
B-2
worship of
bomber going
idols
past with
and
big
the worship of
F-16s by
gods,
their side.
such as the ancient pagan gods of rain or fertility, all the other nature
For two?
gods, and chief gods such as the Roman Jupiter and the Greek Zeus. However, there is a major problem with this understanding of the commandment. Since no one today worships these gods, let alone worships idols made of stone,
Me and
most
I,
people
who am
think that this commandment is irrelevant to modern life. The irony, however, is that this commandment is not only relevant to modern life, it is in many ways the mother of all the other commandments. Why is it so relevant today? Because today we have as many false gods as the ancients did. Why is it the mother of all the other commandments? Because if we identify false gods and avoid worshiping them, we will eliminate one of the greatest barriers to false gods. So let's begin by defining a false god. Our point of view of monotheism is that there is only one God, and that only this God, the creator of the universe, who demands that we keep these Ten Commandments, is to be
Who's got
worshipped.
the rabbit ears?
Why? First, because one God means one human race.
Mel Blanc,
Only if we all have the same
Bugs Bunny,
creator or
Daffy
father
Duck,
are we all brothers
Elmer
and
Fudd,
sisters. Second, having the same parent also means that no
Grand
person
Theft Auto,
is intrinsically more valuable than any
PlayStation,
other. And third,
Nintendo,
one God means one
Xbox,
moral standard for all people. If God
iPhone,
declares murder wrong,
Samsung,
it is wrong
Android,
for everyone. And you can't go to another God for another moral standard.
USB drive.
When anything else is worship,
CD players are too complicated these days.
not only things that can obviously lead to evil, such as the worship of power, or race, or money, or flag,
How do you say
also
no?
things that
How do you
almost
say
always
no?
is quite beautiful, such as art, or education, or even love. Yes, any of these often wonderful things.
The pandemic has killed the morale of the United States. How many are at the border?
Take art. Many of the coolest humans in history loved beautiful music and art. But as a music
Strap
lover, I
yourself
learned
to the
early
EA
in
Sports
life the
bed
sad
saying,
fact
"Go if you're a fitness
that
buff
great
on
music
Friday
is
night,
used
you
to
can't
inspire
swim."
people to follow
Jeez,
evil
man, you're not at the
just
beach
as much
naked.
as it
Jeez, Ocean City's a high
inspire
speed. So if you have an Ocean City
the great
on every
Hollywood director
coast,
Stanley
right? You say,
Kubrick
"There's the
vividly made
Ocean
this
City."
point in his
Yeah, big
classic
blue marble thing.
1971 film, A Clockwork Orange. In it, men rape and murder, while classical music plays in the background. Take education. We all recognize how important education can be for preparing
Hot tub.
people to be able to find work,
Vacation.
to understanding the world. But education in and of itself,
Off the
divorced
rim.
from the higher ends of God and goodness,
Adebayo,
can lead
Boston
and often
Celtics,
has
Bill
led
Russell,
to great
Jim
evil.
Brown just went down
Many of
today.
the best educated people
Cleveland?
in Germany supported
Browns.
Hitler and the Nazis, and almost all of the Western world supporters of the genocidal regimes of Stalin in the Soviet Union and Mao in
Jim
China
Brown.
were highly educated.
What color do you think he was?
There is nothing about a PhD that guarantees a person will be wiser,
How do you ask Jim Brown what color he is?
more ethical than someone with only a high school education. The same holds true even of love. Love, of course, is so often.
Of course, I was making a joke. I would never insult an all-star. Even though he went down, that's a tough loss for him. Basically, the whole sport. I would never insult Jim Brown. I think I know he's a football player, but I would never insult him or his family.
Imagine that the pet you love and a stranger, a person
Of course, they were just showing like with Muhammad Ali and I think it was Jim Brown.
Do you first try to save your pet or the stranger? Well, if love is an end in itself, you save your pet.
Save your pet or the stranger.
If life is a higher value than love,
That's a good
you won't
question.
follow love. This commandment made the ethical revolution of the Bible and of the Ten Commandments, what is known as ethical monotheism, possible. Worship the God of the Ten Commandments, and you will make a good world. Worship a false God, no matter how noble sounding, and you will end up with a world of cruelty. I'm Dennis Prager. Join Prager University. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think
and sign up for free
Jim Brown was
at
pretty.
PragerU.com.
What's wrong with it? I mean, just destroyed every record.
Is there such a thing as the worst sin, one sin that is worse than all the others?
What is it?
Well, there is. I am well aware that some people they maintain that we can't declare any sin worse than the other. To God, a sin is a sin, is how it's often expressed.
47, 46,
The
Miami
person
River
who steals a stapler from the office is committing as
3,000,
grievous a sin in
4,000
God's
miles
eyes
on the
as a
East
murderer.
Coast.
But most people, intuitively, as well as biblically, understand that some sins are clearly worse than others. We are confident that God has at least as much common sense as we do. The God of Judaism and
They haven't
Christianity
explained the
does
thing
not
about
in office with murder.
I keep explaining to
So
people,
then,
why don't they take
what
the
is the
sex?
worst sin?
No, they're wearing a patch
Worst
on the
sin
end.
is
The worst sin.
God's name. How do we know?
The
From the third
Russell
commandment of the Ten Commandments. This is the only one of the Ten Commandments that states that God will not forgive a person who violates the commandment. Commandments say, it is most commonly translated as, do not take the name of the Lord thy God.
The reason that why on the NBA jersey they have the six pack, which of course James himself right now. But they actually have, I guess there's a couple of them, right? They will not let anyone who currently has the numbers, no one can get the number 6 anymore. The NBA jersey, after the last person wears it basically. So everybody's saying the hottest picket ever on earth would be the number 6. LeBron James.
God, did I have a rough day at work today? Let's be honest. That would render God and the Ten Commandments.
I could never figure it out, but I even asked somebody,
well, as it happens, the commandment is not
do you know why? I said, do you want a peanut butter and jelly or a Ritz cracker? He said, I'd go with the Ritz cracker. I said, it's a Thomas
do not carry. The Hebrew literally means do not carry the name
You know
of the Lord
what?
thy
They
God.
were in the 6 on the patch.
One of
The
the most
NBA just like,
widely used translations of the Bible, the International Version or NIV, uses the word misuse rather than the word take. You shall not misuse the name
24 left. Miami, Boston.
This is much closer to the original's intent. What does it mean to carry or to misuse God's
One
name?
if by land, two if by sea, three if by sky. Now, fourth is just actual.
God will not forgive. Why not?
Interpretive speech, artificial technology. Most people would say, who's AI?
But when religious people commit evil,
You take 6 and find out 2, what do you get?
they are not only committing evil, they are doing terrible damage to the name of God. In our time, there was an example of this. The evils committed by Islamists who torture, bomb, cut throats, and mass murder. All in the name of God. Terrible damage to the name of God. It is not coincidental that what is called the atheism, the immense eruption of atheist activism, followed the 9/11 attacks on America by Islamist terrorists. In fact, the most frequent argument against God and religion concerns evil committed in God's name, whether it is done in the name of Allah today or was done in the past in the name of Christ. People who murder in the name of God.
Now this guy's got enthusiasm. I mean, I'm telling you,
They kill God too.
PragerU.
That's why
Are you
the greatest sin
PragerU?
is
Some dude
religious.
on the internet named Prager.
That's what the third commandment is there to teach.
Teach
Don't carry
third.
God's name in vain.
Do not.
If you do, God won't forgive you.
They will not.
I'm Dennis Prager.
He's Dennis
Join
Prager.
Prager. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and sign up for
Oh,
free
not Prager.
at
We said
PragerU.com. Many people who
49,
revere the
48.
Ten Commandments
Miami
don't
over
think
Boston.
that the fourth is particularly important, let alone binding. Once you understand it, however, you will recognize
Charles
how
Barkley.
life-changing, even world-changing, the Sabbath commandment is, and you will begin to appreciate how relevant it is to your own life. The fourth commandment reads, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns." Why is this so important? First, perhaps more than any other commandment, it elevated the human being. How so? For nearly all of human history, life consisted overwhelmingly of work. In effect, humans were beasts of burden. This commandment, and only this commandment, changed all that by insisting that people cease working 1 day out of 7. Second, more than any other commandment, the Sabbath day reminds people that they are meant to be free. As the second version of the commandment, the one summarized by Moses in the book of Deuteronomy, states, "Remember that you were slaves in Egypt." In other words, remember that slaves cannot have a Sabbath. In light of this, I might add that in the biblical view, unless necessary for survival, people who choose to work 7 days a week are essentially slaves. Slaves to work, or perhaps to money, but slaves nonetheless. The millionaire who works 7 days a week is simply a rich slave. Third, while the Bible cannot universally abolish slavery, the Sabbath commandment greatly humanized that terrible institution and even helped make slavery impossible. By definition, a slave owner was under no obligation to allow a slave to ever rest, let alone to rest 1 day every week. Yet that is exactly what the fourth commandment commanded. Even a slave has fundamental human rights. Therefore, a slave, too, is a human being. Fourth, the Sabbath almost single-handedly creates and strengthens family ties and friendships. When a person takes off from work 1 day every week, that day almost inevitably becomes a day spent with other people, namely family and or friends. It has similar positive effects on marriages. Ask anyone married to a workaholic how good it would be for their marriage if the workaholic would not work for 1 day each week. You can appreciate the power of the Sabbath day. Fifth, the Sabbath commandment granted animals dignity. Even one's animals had to rest 1 day a week. It is, to the best of our knowledge, the first national law in history on behalf of animals. And its benefits to animals surely went beyond the mandatory day of rest for them. People who felt divinely obligated to give their animals a day of rest were much less likely to treat their animals cruelly any day of the week. Now, all 5 of these life-changing and society-changing benefits of the Sabbath are available to anyone. You don't have to be a Jew, a Christian, or even a believer in God to derive all these benefits. But the reality is that those who believe the 10 Commandments were given by God are the ones who have kept the Sabbath alive. The God factor plays another role in the Sabbath. Just as faith in God brings people to the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath brings people to faith in God. That is why the first version of the Ten Commandments, the version in the book of Exodus, ends with these words. For in 6 days God made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore God blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. However you interpret 6 days, and many Jewish and Christian believers do not translate days as 24-hour periods, the point is this. Every time you keep the Sabbath, you are affirming that there is a creator, that the world didn't just happen, that life isn't some meaningless coincidence, but that it is infinitely meaningful, and therefore each of us has a unique significance and purpose. Not bad for 1 day a week. No wonder that the Sabbath is one of the Ten Commandments. No wonder that those who have it in their lives are often happier, with richer family lives, more serenity, a community of friends, and yes, are even healthy. You might want to give it a try. I'm Dennis Prager. Join Prager University, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for free at prageru.com. The fifth of the Ten Commandments reads, honor your father and your mother. This commandment is so important that it is one of the only commandments in the entire Bible that gives a reason for observing it, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Many people read that part of the fifth commandment as a reward, but while it may be regarded as a reward, the fact remains that it is a reason. If you build a society in which children honor their parents, your society will long survive. And the corollary is, a society in which children do not honor their parents is doomed to self-destruction. In our time, this connection between honoring parents and maintaining civilization is not widely recognized. On the contrary, many of the best educated parents do not believe that their children need to show them honor, since honoring implies an authority figure, and that is a status many modern parents reject. In addition, many parents seek to be loved, not honored, by their children. Yet neither the Ten Commandments nor the Bible elsewhere commands us to love our parents. This is particularly striking, given that the Bible commands us to love our neighbor, to love God, and to love the stranger. The Bible understands that there will always be individuals who, for whatever reason, do not love a parent. Therefore, it does not demand what may be psychologically or emotionally impossible. But it does demand that we show honor to our parents. And it makes this demand only with regard to parents. There is no one else who the Bible commands us to honor. So then, why is honoring parents so important? Why does the Ten Commandments believe that society could not survive if this commandment were widely violated? One reason is that we as children need it. Parents may want to be honored, and they should want to be, but children need to honor parents. A father and a mother who are not honored are essentially adult peers of their children. They are not parents. No generation knows better than ours the terrible consequences of growing up without a father. Fatherless boys are far more likely to grow up and commit violent crime, mistreat women, and act out against society in every other way. Girls who do not have a father to honor, and hopefully to love as well, are likely to seek the wrong men and to be promiscuous at an early age. Second, honoring parents is how nearly all of us come to recognize that there is a moral authority above us to whom we are morally accountable. And without this, we cannot create or maintain a moral society. Of course, in the Ten Commandments, the ultimate moral authority is God, who is therefore higher than even our parents. But it is very difficult to come to honor God without having had a parent, especially a father, to model. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychiatry and an atheist, theorized that one's attitude towards one's father largely shaped one's attitude toward God. There's one more reason why honoring parents is fundamental to a good society.
Drexel.
Honoring parents is the best antidote
Woodland
to
Avenue.
totalitarianism.
Don't walk past that line.
One of the first
Charles
things
Barkley.
totalitarian
Turner
rulers seek
Broadcasting
is to
System.
break
Paramount
the
Plus. Who do you think's up at
The
halftime?
child's allegiance is shifted from parents to the state.
Who's Bill Russell?
Even in democratic societies, the larger the state becomes,
Why do they not wear the number 6 anymore?
the parental role. Finally, there are many ways to honor parents. The general rule is this:
What?
they get special treatment.
SEPTA?
Parents are unique.
SEPTA was named after Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority. Who's on Amtrak?
Anyone else. For example, you might use expletives when speaking to a friend, but you don't with a parent. You don't call them by their first name. And when you leave their home and make your own,
What do you do?
you maintain contact with them.
And
Having no contact with
27 minutes
is
in.
the opposite.
Now you're in row 26 saying, who's in row
All
27?
recognize that some parents have behaved so cruelly, and I mean cruelly, not
Now
annoyingly,
you're moving up the steps
that
saying,
one finds
in
it
30 seconds you're walking step by step
There
saying,
are such
what's a
cases,
beer can?
but they are rare.
That's Iron Grass
And
Green,
remember this:
Emerald,
if your children
City,
see you honor your
Wizard of
parents,
Oz,
no matter how
Judy
difficult
Garland,
it may sometimes
Fox
be,
Live was talking about, what did I just
chances are
say?
far greater
FBI, rot.
will honor you.
Who's the NSA?
I'm Dennis Prager.
What's his name?
Join Prager University, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for free at PragerU.com. You would think that of all the
You?
10 Commandments, the one
You.
that needs the most explaining is the sixth.
Molecule. It's like a molecule. Don't tell him about materials. The Holy Bible. It says, oh, what's an isometric drawing? Computer aided engineering? Your website just went down. Not
This
his.
is probably the least well understood.
Jackson University. Drops across that line.
And does not say do not kill.
40th Market? I wouldn't walk past there.
Both Hebrew and English have two words for taking a life. One is kill, harag in Hebrew, and the other is murder, hatzah in Hebrew. The difference between the two is enormous. Kill means, one, taking any life, whether of a human being or an animal. Two, taking a human life, deliberately or by accident. Three, taking a human life, legally or illegally, morally or immorally. On the other hand, murder can only mean one thing: the illegal or immoral taking of a human life. That's why we say, I killed a mosquito, not I murdered a mosquito. And that's why we would say the worker was accidentally killed, not the worker was accidentally murdered. So why did the King James translation of the Bible use the word kill rather than murder?
They're in row 28 saying, Various speech days is still relevant, right?
As a result, some people don't realize
I got 2 minutes to make the train. I start running.
and therefore think that the Ten Commandments prohibits all killing. But of course it doesn't. If the Ten Commandments forbade killing, we would all have to be vegetarians.
Getting dark out there.
Animals would be prohibited. And we would all have to be pacifists, since we could not kill even in self-defense. However, you don't have to know how the English language has evolved in order to understand that the Ten Commandments could not have prohibited all killing. The very same part of the Bible that contains the Ten Commandments,
Roadrunner
the five
King.
books of Moses, the Torah, as it is known
The
by
Torah.
Jews,
But the actual
commands the
thing,
death penalty
when
for
you're-
murder.
exactly.
Allows
So if you're
killing
thinking
in
you're at the desk, you're saying, wow, it looks like a piece of concrete, which it actually is,
and
but the
allows
molecules
even
are actually like, moving. It's amazing how
correct
they do it.
understanding of the
So
commandment
anyone
against
likes
murder
what, a ceramic plate, even this,
because
anyway,
while virtually every modern translation
modern
correctly
translation.
translates
Facebook,
the commandment as do
YouTube,
not murder,
Murph,
many people
the
cite
Ten
the King
Commandments,
James
30
translation
minutes in.
to justify
If you're getting
two
past 30, you
positions
better make a
that have no
decision.
good basis: opposition to capital punishment and pacifism. Regarding capital punishment and the Bible, only law that appears in each one of the 5 books of
What?
Moses is that murderers be put to death. Opponents of the death penalty are free to hold the view
I don't care what he says.
should be allowed to live.
Nobody would listen to me this far into the video. I'm just going to play it again. Why? Yeah, Iron Hand Sam. Jim Brown went down, right?
But that, as should now be abundantly clear, is not what the commandment says, and it is therefore an invalid argument. As regards pacifism, the belief that it is always wrong to kill a human being.
Who's a Louisville slugger?
Anyone is free to hold this
Bryce
position.
Harper stole number 3 for the Phillies, right?
And what
Are they playing home? This says trust and will. Boston is.
the killing of someone who was in the process of murdering innocent men, women, and
One
children.
if by land, 2 if by sea. Who's in charge of national security?
But it is dishonest to cite the
Kirby, you
commandment
saw up on
against
NSA, right?
pacifism.
Or www.state.gov, that's an active website. WhiteHouse.gov, that's an active website. NIST.gov,
That is murder.
immoral.
The 10 Commandments
Did I tell you I'm M.I.?
on 2 tablets.
It says
The
M.I.,
5
which
commandments
means
on the 2nd tablet all
Yeah,
concern
millennium.
the treatment of fellow
if you
human
put the
beings.
fake thing saying
The first one on
100,
that list is do not murder.
do not murder.
Why?
What's the
Because
next
murder
one
is
next?
the worst act
Don't touch your
person.
neighbor's wife, basically.
The other 4 commandments
Or
prohibiting
girlfriend.
stealing, adultery, giving false testimony, and coveting are all serious offenses. But murder leads the list because deliberately taking the life of an innocent person is the most terrible thing we can do. The next time you hear someone cite "do not kill" when quoting
31.
the 6th commandment,
How long is this thing?
but firmly
That's only
explain
5 minutes
that
of
it
the
actually
5th or
says
6th commandment.
"do not."
The next one is do not touch the neighbor's wife.
Join Prager University, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for free at PragerU.com.
Prego? Did you say prego or ragu?
There's an old joke about the 7th commandment, do not commit adultery. Moses comes down from Mount Sinai and announces, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that I got him down to 10. The bad news is that adultery stays. The joke is telling. The prohibition on a married person having sexual relations with anyone except his or her spouse may be for many people the most consistently difficult of the 10 commandments to observe. The reasons shouldn't be hard to guess. One is the enormous power of the sex drive. It can be very hard to keep in check for the entirety of one's marriage, especially when an attractive outsider makes him or herself sexually or romantically available. Another reason is the human desire to love and be loved. For normal people, there is no more powerful emotion than love. If one falls in love with someone while married, it takes great effort not to commit adultery with that person. And if we add in the unfortunate circumstance of a loveless marriage, adultery becomes even more difficult to resist. That's why the joke with which I began is funny, because it reflects truth. Why is adultery prohibited in the 10 Commandments? Because, like the other 9, it is indispensable to forming and maintaining higher civilization. Adultery threatens the very building block of the civilization that the 10 Commandments seeks to create. That building block is the family, a married father and mother and their children. Anything that threatens the family unit is prohibited in the Bible. Adultery is one example. Not honoring one's father and mother is another. And the prohibition on injecting any sexuality into the family unit, incest, is a third example. Why is the family so important? Because without it, social stability is impossible. Because without it, the passing on of society's values from generation to generation is impossible. Because commitment to a wife and children makes men more responsible and mature. Because more than anything else, family meets most women's deepest emotional and material needs. And nothing comes close to the family giving children a secure and stable child. And why does adultery threaten the family? The The most obvious reason is that sex with someone other than one spouse can all too easily lead to either or both spouses leaving the marriage. Adultery should not automatically lead to divorce, but it often does. There is another reason adultery can destroy a family. It can lead to pregnancy, and then to the birth of a child. That child will, in almost all cases, start out life with no family, meaning no father and mother married to each other to call his or her own. And if adultery doesn't destroy a family, it almost always does terrible harm to a marriage. Aside from the sense of betrayal and loss of trust that it causes, it means that the adulterous partner lives a fraudulent life. When a husband or wife is having sex with someone other than their spouse, their thoughts are constantly about that other person and about how to deceive their spouse. The life of deception that an adulterous affair necessarily entails inevitably damages a marriage, even if the betrayed spouse is unaware of the affair. Finally, the commandment prohibiting adultery doesn't come with an asterisk saying that adultery is okay if both spouses agree to it. Spouses who have extramarital sex with the permission of their husband or wife may not necessarily be hurting their spouse's feelings, but they are still harming the institution of marriage. And protecting the family, not protecting spouses from emotional pain, is the reason for the commandment. Many marriages, sadly, are troubled, and it is not for any of us to stand in judgment of others' behavior in this realm. No one knows what goes on in anyone else's marriage, and if we did, we might often well understand why one or the other sought love outside the marriage. But no higher civilization can be made or can endure that condones adultery. That is why it is prohibited in the Ten Commandments. I'm Dennis Prager. Join Prager University, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for free at prageru.com. A good case can be made that the eighth commandment, do not steal, is the one commandment that encompasses all the others. How does do not steal encompass the other commandments? Well, murder is the stealing of another person's life. Adultery is the stealing of another person's spouse. Coveting is the desire to steal what belongs to another person. Giving false testimony is stealing justice, and so on. This commandment is unique in another way. It is the only commandment that is completely open-ended. All the other commandments are specific. The fifth commandment, for example, states that it is our parents whom we should honor. The sixth commandment, prohibiting murder, is about taking the life of an innocent human being. The seventh commandment, prohibiting adultery, is also specific to a married person. Two unmarried people cannot commit adultery. But the commandment against stealing doesn't even hint at what it is we're forbidden to steal.
38 years old.
Which means that we cannot take anything that belongs to another person. And that in turn
38 minutes, 38 years old.
things. First and foremost, the commandment against stealing has always been understood to mean that we are not allowed to steal another human being, what we call kidnapping. That is why no one who had even an elementary understanding of the eighth commandment
39, you're
ever used the
not
Bible
wishing
to
for your
justify the
40th
most
birthday
common
if you're
form
a
of
girl.
slavery, the kidnapping of human beings and selling them
It
into
says
slavery.
Holy Bible, right?
Critics of the Bible
How's his
argue that the
graphics?
Bible allowed slavery.
The
But the type of
Ephesusm?
slavery described
Who's the
was in
gatekeeper?
almost all cases
Tell them
what
what the
was
list
known as
is.
indentured servitude,
At 40 years
selling of
old,
oneself to another
I'm the
person
list.
for
So
a fixed
whoever
period
gets
of
to the
time
gate
in
first,
order to work
which will
off a
be
debt.
me. You know,
This
specific.
had nothing
Yeah,
to do
me.
with
Not
kidnapping
him.
free people, such as was done in Africa and elsewhere. That was expressly forbidden by the
It's
eighth commandment.
60-57. Miami
The second significant
over
meaning of the
Boston.
commandment against stealing is the sanctity of people's property. Just as we are forbidden to steal people, we are forbidden to steal what people own. It has been shown over and over that private property, beginning with land ownership, is indispensable to creating a free and decent society. every totalitarian regime takes away private property rights. In the ancient and medieval world, a few rich people owned all the land, and the majority of the population worked on that land for the enrichment of the owners. And then, in 19th century Europe, many socialists argued for taking away private property and giving it to the quote-unquote people. Where that advice was followed, in what came to be known as the communist
61-60.
Property quickly resulted
Boston
in
over
theft of freedom and ultimately massive theft of life.
Miami.
The third enormously important meaning of the commandment against stealing concerns the many non-material things each person owns: their reputation, their dignity, their trust, and their intellectual property. Let's quickly run through these. 1. A person's reputation. Stealing a person's good name, whether through libel, slander, or gossip, is a particularly destructive form of theft.
Come on, Holmes.
Because, unlike money or property,
Drexel University, right?
good name has been stolen.
I keep telling you, 30th Street Station. There is no 40th and Market anymore. They don't want to try that far, do they? Start running, you can't get to the hospital. Why? They end up at 30th Street Station. You can't get fast forward.
Can do permanent damage to what is perhaps the most precious thing any of us owns.
Tuition.
3. A person's trust. Stealing a person's trust is known as deceiving someone. In fact, in Hebrew, a term for tricking
How many
someone.
people in line at Christiana Hospital right now? It says something like Greek. It says one example is tricking people in buying
Real
something.
estate agent omits telling a prospective purchaser all the flaws in the home in order to do the sale. Another example would be when someone deceives another person with insincere proclamations of love in order to obtain material or sexual favors. 4. A person's intellectual property. This form of theft includes anything from copying software or downloading music and movies without paying for them to stealing a person's words in what we know as plagiarism. Stealing a life, a person,
There you go.
spouse,
That's it.
material property,
PhD.
intellectual property,
Oh.
reputation, dignity, or trust. There is hardly any aspect of human life that is not harmed, sometimes
Who's on your
irreparably
Mount
so,
Rushmore of all
by
time?
stealing.
The
That is why
5-point
it is fair to
play.
say
Whoever hit the
that if
5-point
everyone
play.
observed only one of the 10 commandments,
I'm running down the court, running down the court. 42 seconds. There's number 42. 42 and 42 is that much.
I'm Dennis Pringle.
42 and
Join
43.
Prager University. Subscribe to
Running down the court, running down the court. All
and
of a
sign
sudden,
up for free at PragerU.com.
I fired a 3-pointer.
The 9th of the 10 commandments is, you shall not give false witness against your neighbor. This means 2 things. Do not lie when testifying, and do not lie, period. Remember, in order for an action to be prohibited or demanded in the 10 commandments, it has to be fundamental to making civilization. As important donkey riding might have been when the 10 commandments were given, the 10 commandments contains no commandment to ride your donkey responsibly. A society can survive bad donkey driving.
Dude, that's me.
Cannot survive whether inside or outside a court. If people testify falsely in a courtroom, there can be no justice, and without even the hope of justice, there can be no civilization. The Hebrew Bible was so adamant on this subject that the punishment imposed on witness who gave false testimony was the
We
same
still want to like do it,
out
right?
to the accused had the false testimony been believed. In the case of a crime that would be punishable by death, therefore, the false witness was liable to be put to death.
Thoughts to work
But
over.
the commandment is clearly concerned with truth generally, not
Yeah,
only
your mind's wondering, David.
both the great 12th century
Irrelevant.
English commentator Ibn Ezra and one of the most influential biblical
Minus
scholars
4.
of the 20th century,
Indigenous.
Reverend Childs
Minus
of Yale
5.
University, agreed
I'm going with
that the
irrelevant.
commandment was about truth-telling generally. As Childs pointed out, if the 10 Commandments Commandments were solely concerned with truth
Nah,
and falsehood in a courtroom,
I'm trying to
it
ask
would have
security.
added
Every
words
responsible
such
Social
as,
Security at 44 plus 8 would be
there are many important values in society, but truth is probably the
62,
most
62 Boston.
Goodness and compassion may be the most
Compassion,
values
61.
in the micro or personal realm. But in the macro or societal realm, truth is even more
Yeah,
important
let's
than
throw out the
compassion.
Venn diagram at them. Let's all sort of
Virtually
spiff.
all the great
Let's give them a
societies,
lecture from Mike the
such
Fool with
as
the guitar.
African slavery,
I got one right here.
have been based on lies.
What do you want
There
for
were slave
this?
traders, Nazis,
Xbox,
and
Guitar
communists.
Hero. Yeah, try the Best Buy. See if you can do it.
But all of them told, and most of them believed, some great lie that enabled
They
them to
all want an
participate
iPhone in the
in a
20th
great
century, not before Nintendo.
Black slavery was made possible in large measure by the lie that blacks were innately inferior to whites. The Holocaust would have been impossible without tens of millions of people believing the lie that Jews were inherently inferior to so-called Aryans. And communist totalitarianism was entirely based on lies. That's why the Soviet Union's Communist Party newspaper was named Pravda, the Russian word for truth, because the party, not objective reality, was the source of truth. There's only so much evil that can be done by individual sadists and sociopaths.
65,
In order to
62,
murder millions,
Boston,
vast numbers of otherwise normal, even decent people,
semi-decent.
mass evil is
What's on
committed
Fox
because
News? That's the
vast
NBA, right? That's Reggie Miller, Van Gundy, and some announcer.
because they are fed
Harlan,
lies
I
that
think it
convince
was.
them
Did he say
that
Harlem or
what
Harlan?
is evil is actually good. However, one big obstacle to truth-telling is that
There's
believers
love
in
again.
causes, including good causes, that don't place truth as a central value, will be very tempted to lie on behalf of their cause. There are many examples.
Like,
In the
what?
1980s, for example, to promote the cause of the homeless, the leading activist on their behalf claimed that there were 2 to 3 million homeless in the United States.
And?
Years later, he admitted on national television that he had to come up with a number and made that one up. The real number was between 250,000 and 350,000. Similarly, groups in the fight against cancer were caught greatly exaggerating the number of women who get breast cancer each year. Why? In order to frighten more women into getting mammograms. Again, lying on behalf of a good cause. Why is lying on behalf of good causes destructive? Because if we don't know what's true, how and where do we know how to properly allocate society's limited resources? And in the worst cases, it distorts society's priorities and therefore does great harm. The Ten Commandments is there to warn all of us that with very few exceptions, such as the immediate saving of innocent life, no cause is more important than truth-telling.
50 years old.
The Ten Commandments is the greatest list of instructions
You're
ever
50, you're
devised
lucky.
for creating a good society. Such a society cannot be
You want to
created
hit a 50 or a 40?
maintained.
Jeez,
If it is
60
not
is the
based
new
on truth.
40? That's 64,
I'm Dennis
right?
Pritt. Join
What's the
Prager
10th
University,
commandment?
subscribe to our
At 50
YouTube
years
channel,
old?
and sign
That's
up
the
for free
NBA TV
at
on this thing, right?
PragerU.com.
TNT, over-the-air broadcasting. Mike
In
the
the
Fool.
Ten Commandments,
Mike the Fool, the guitar. This is Prager.
6, 7, 8, and 9
And what's 10?
are the ones that prohibit acts of evil: murder, adultery, stealing, and perjury.
Perjury.
Prohibits the thing that leads to murder, adultery, stealing,
Perjury. That's the one left in that.
Which one is it? It's the last of them.
What is it? I forgot.
Do not covet anything that belongs to others.
The cow.
Not their spouse, their house, their servants, their animals, or any of their
The cow. Well, the dog is
In order to understand this commandment and its unique significance, the first thing to understand is that this is the only one of the Ten Commandments that legislates
50 minutes in, you're saying, what's the 10th
commandments
commandment?
legislate behavior. In fact, of the 613 laws in the 5 books of Moses, virtually none prohibit thought.
Where's Constitution?
Why then does the Ten Commandments include a law that prohibits thought? Because
He
it is
declared
coveting
the biggest.
that so often leads to evil. Or, to put it another way, coveting is what leads to violating the preceding 4 commandments, the ones against murder, adultery, stealing, and perjury. Think about it. Why do people do those things? In most instances, it's because they covet something that belongs to another person. Obviously, that is the reason people steal. Thieves covet their victims' property. But it is also the reason for many murders, and coveting is obviously the reason for adultery, wanting the spouse of another person. As for perjury, or bearing false witness in the language of the Ten Commandments, that is done in order to cover up all these other crimes that are caused by coveting. But in order to understand why coveting is the one fault that is prohibited in the Ten Commandments, and one of the only faults prohibited in the entire Hebrew Bible, we need to understand what coveting means, and equally important, what it doesn't mean. To covet is much more than to want. The Hebrew verb, lachmod, means to want to the point of seeking to take away and own something that belongs to another person.
What do you think's on Fox News?
That there are 2 operative elements here.
Commercial says bank.
Seeking to own and belongs to another person. Seeking
Toyota.
to own does not mean just envying, or in the case of your neighbor's spouse, just lusting after.
Wrath.
Neither envy nor lust is prohibited in the Ten Commandments. Uncontrolled envy and lust can surely lead to bad things,
Letters.
and they can both be psychologically and emotionally
Torah,
destructive.
Torah,
But
Torah.
neither one is prohibited in the Ten
Waikiki
Commandments.
Beach.
Why?
Sheraton
Because
Hotel.
neither is the same as coveting.
Diamondback. You know,
It
see
is
that volcano?
that almost
I've been there
inevitably leads
before.
to stealing,
You wanna go now?
adultery, and sometimes
How much does
even
it cost for a lift ride to
Let me
Waikiki
explain
Beach?
this in another way. The 10th commandment does not prohibit you from saying, wow,
Iwo
what a
Jima.
great house or car or
Iwo
spouse.
Jima.
My neighbor
That's my
has.
Uncle John.
I wish I
Wanna know his
had
last
such
name?
a house or car or spouse.
Go down to
That may end up
6213
being
Rays
destructive,
Avenue,
but it may
Philadelphia,
also end up being
Pennsylvania. Look
constructive.
directly across the
Now,
street. You'll see a
It
church.
may spur you to work harder and improve your life.
Right up there, you
so
go
that you
Woodland
can
Avenue.
obtain a house,
I wouldn't live
car,
there.
or
You have to
spouse
cross
like your
over a
neighbor.
bridge. Oh,
It is
Amtrak.
when you want and seek to gain possession
People who
of
bought that
a
house turned
specific
it into something which
house,
was not good.
car, or spouse that belongs to another, that evil ensues. And that is what the 10th
That's why I had
commandment
the
prohibits.
house across from
Therefore,
a
one
Catholic
of these
church.
10 commandments,
Uncle
these 10
John.
basic rules of life, must be
What was
that
his
we
wife's
simply
name?
cannot allow ourselves
That's a
to
good
covet
question from me.
what belongs to our neighbor. Whatever belongs to another person
Is
must
what?
be regarded as sacrosanct. We cannot seek to own anything that belongs to another.
I didn't know anything about
Because
him,
only
but I know about what his
can
wife.
come.
Yeah.
I'm
Tell me.
Dennis Prager.
That's the 10th commandment.
Join Prager University. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
So now I'm
and sign
Uncle
up for
Mike,
free
the
at
gatekeeper, who went to
PragerU.com.
St. Gabriel's grade school. Tell them the story of Gabriel next.